updated the information, it was in the 6th administration. But furthermore, I did indicate to the acting HOD to say that the personal email to my PA, which is Dr. Lebogang Mautso, it was misspelled. It was supposed to be Mautso. They did not include M there. So automatically it means that that email did not reach my PA. The same applies to the email that belongs to my former chief of staff. It was misspelled. Furthermore, I did indicate that when it comes to the official email, I did confirm that indeed that is the email of my personal assistants. Fortunately, I was with the chief of staff together with my personal assistants, where I made him aware of the invitation. And he did indicate and confirm that he did not get any email from Human Rights. He recalls that there was one email that was sent to him, but without attachments, but he was not even aware about the person who sent him the email, because normally we are used to the provincial manager who used to actually send us all the emails to our emails. Then we went back. Then I requested the chief of staff to communicate with our IT specialist, the director responsible for IT, to do further investigations, because the PA did confirm that he did not actually receive any email. Upon our investigations, Commissioner, we must indicate and confirm that the report that we got from our IT to the commissioner or the commissions, where we had to actually provide evidence that this is what, through our investigations, this is what we have actually discovered, Commissioner. Furthermore, based on this, I must confirm that we received a call from the provincial manager in terms of confirmation of information. And as the department, we did share the correct information with the provincial manager responsible for the Northwest, and furthermore updated in terms of the details of the acting SG, Superintendent General, to say that Ndadesi Shibe is no longer acting as the HOD, rather the current official who's currently acting as the HOD of the Department of Education is now Ntate Masilo. From where I'm seated, Commissioner, based on where we come from, the 6th administration, I remember at one particular point, we received concerns from Human Rights to say that as the department, it seems like there is no that close relations between us and we need each other. And I've taken upon myself as the MEC to strengthen the relations. Hence, we never encounter challenges when it comes to issues of reports, where we made sure that we close that particular gap. So as a public representative, I've taken an oath that my responsibility is to represent the rights and making sure that we deliver quality education to our learners. There is no way that I should have actually not taken opportunity of this inquiry, because I was supposed to be opportunistic about it. Because you look at the human rights, the inquiry, it seeks actually to assist me as the Department of Education, as I'm confronted with so many challenges and I don't have control over scholar transport. Once more, let me take this opportunity, Commissioner, once more, to apologize. It was a miscap. There was a miscommunication regarding that particular issue. I did not get that invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MEC. Do you have a follow-up, Mr. Nkonde?
Maybe because of the type of response that we're getting, maybe let me just follow up on one aspect. MEC, do you confirm that Dr. Lebogang works in your office?
Yes, I do confirm that Dr. Lebogang Mautso is my personal assistant.
Thank you. And then the email that was sent on the 18th of February, where he responded saying that there's no attachment. Is that the correct email?
Yes, that is the correct email.
So when you inquired from him, I think when you were in Italy, you are saying his indication was that he did not receive anything prior date.
Yes, he did indicate that he did not get any invitation from Human Rights Commission.
Looking at, can you go to page 1001? I don't want us to labor on this issue because it's really a side issue. Do you see the response that he said there's no attachment on the top part, the first part, 1001?
Yes, I can see the response from Lebogang to say that kindly note that there is nothing attached on this email.
Do you see that in as much as there may not be anything attached to that email, on page 1003, a follow-up on the 18th of February is sent again to the same email address. Now there's an attachment, 2:15.
I can see, Commissioner, the email there. That is why I did indicate to say that Lebogang did confirm the first one where he did indicate that there was no attachment on that particular email. I believe that the attachment was all about the invitation. I did indicate further to say that there was a miscap, there was a technical error maybe, the spam. I believe that if maybe the email on itself, if it should have outlined to say that you are invited, blah, 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 on this particular day, Lebogang would have actually indicated to say that this particular invitation. The unfortunate part is that even the person who sent him the email, he was not even known to Lebogang, as I've already alluded to the fact that as the Department of Education, under normal circumstances from the 6th administration, the person from Human Rights who used to communicate with us, it is the provincial manager. But unfortunately for this one, for the fact that the first email, there was no attachment, hence we did not get the invitation. I believe for the attachment was based on the invitation, but you look at the email, does not say anything. It just say where it does not have actually the attachment. It just say, good day, MEC, kindly see, attach for your urgent attention, no information or whatsoever.
The title of the email is saying notice of inquiry. Is that correct?
Yes, it says that.
And then the body of the email says for your urgent attention. Is that correct?
100%.
And you have a relationship, a good relationship with the Human Rights Commission in the form of the provincial manager because you were interacting with her in the past.
Yes.
Was there no need probably to touch base saying, hey, I'm receiving an email from an official purporting to be human rights. It's written agent. It's written notice of inquiry. And we can't access. Can we not find out what is the content, at least looking at the prior relationship between the two?
For the fact of the matter, Commission, that the PA immediately did respond, did pay attention to the email by indicating that there is no attachment there. It means that there was an action that was made from the office of the MEC. Let me give you a practical example, Commissioner, if you allow me. And I acknowledge that this is one of the things that in future we are going to make sure that we close gaps. For example, I was puzzled. I did not even understand how did we arrive to where we were to a point where we missed that particular inquiry. You know what I've done, because I was very worried, because I'm one person when it comes to the portfolio committees, when it comes to your commissions, are things that I don't think I'll ever miss, because they serve actually to address whatever challenges that we are confronted with. I did call, for example, the HOD to verify, to say that what did the invitation says to you? But the invitation to the office of the HOD was very clear. It was addressed to the HOD. Then furthermore, I called the portfolio committee chairperson, Commissioner, Honorable Sonakile Freddy, to check with him, Horman. I don't know what really happened, and this thing really, it deals with my image as the executive authority of the Department of Education. I can attest that I did not actually get that invitation. And my PA is one of the PAs that I trust with my life. Wrong is wrong, right is right. Where he has wronged, he will come to me and admit to say that, here it was an oversight. You know what Honorable Sonakile responded by saying? He did indicate to say that, you know what, sometimes these emails also are problematic, because the same applies to me. I received an email on my official email, and I did not see that particular email. And fortunate enough for me, the person responsible for human rights was concerned to say that there is no response, nothing reports whatsoever that needs to be submitted before the human rights. The person responsible, which is Commissioner Nkonde, made efforts by sending me a WhatsApp to say that, are you aware of this kind of an email or not? And Honorable Member did indicate I was not aware, but I'll go back and make sure that proper documents are being sent to the commission, because this commission is important. I'm not blaming anybody, and I take full responsibility. But what I'm saying, Commissioner, is that there is no way that if I've seen an email, protocol and principle dictates that, number one, you have to acknowledge the email. Let's agree that there was an acknowledgement indirectly of that particular email by the PA, by responding to the person who sent that particular email, to say that, as much as I don't know you personally, but I can see that you have just sent me an email with an attachment, but there is no attachment. Unfortunately, what happened between, it's something that needs investigations, because we did investigate. We got is that those particular emails, we find them in a spam. We don't know what happened during that attachment that ended up actually maybe having those particular emails not accessing the office. But we can confirm the personal ones were misspelled. They are not the correct ones together. Even the former chief of staff, even the email address there is not the correct one, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. The question about the misspelling is taken. Just two questions. Aspect. Do you concede as well that on this email address that was sent by Mr. Lekoma, Meshelim Lombo is copied, who is the person that you've been communicating with constantly?
Yes, there's a PA that, remember, this email went to the PA. So the PA saw the email, and I agree with you 100%. He did respond in terms of the issues of the attachment. I'm not disputing the issue that there were people who were CC'd in that particular email. The issue here is that, Commissioner, we received the email, we responded to say that there is no attachment, which we believe that that particular attachment, it was the invitation. There is a confirmation that the first email that went through, which was opened by the PA, it did not have the attachment, and the PA did respond to that particular email in relation with the issue of the attachment. I'm not saying, and I'm not saying like I've already indicated in terms of the final investigations that we have provided before the commission, so that we even went further to provide a proof to say that we believe what this might be the miscap between, in terms of communication between the two, because we did not confirmation on its own. It says that we never received the invitation. There were issues also of the reports that were supposed to be submitted before the commission that we have submitted, by the way, and we have not submitted them because we were not aware of the email, Commissioner.
Commissioner, I have more questions, but I think this is more of an issue that can be dealt with somewhere else. I leave the entire thing into your hands, but just to say that, in fact, let me not say anything. Can I just park it there unless colleagues would like to take it further?
Yes, may I just find out if there are other colleagues that would still want to canvass anything further? It looks like it's only the PM. PM, over to you.
Just one question from me, Chair, Commissioner. The IT colleagues that you were engaging with, were they able to explain why the second email of 18 February came through, but the first email of 27 January and the third email of 18 February did not come through? Were they able to provide clarity? Because I think for me, when I read the response, that's the part that puzzled me, to say the only ones that did not come through apparently are those ones that have the notice, but the other one came through on the same email address.
Unfortunately, we did not go to that level, but as the department will further investigate this particular matter further. Thank you.
Thank you for your response, MEC. As difficult as it is to accept it, especially because from where I'm sitting, there were a number of versions. The one version is that you did not receive. Then there's a version that says it went to spam. And once you say there is proof that has been provided, I have not seen it. I'm not sure if it is in these bundles, which shows that indeed it went to spam. And is there such proof?
It's page a screenshot, page 987 of what we received. That was coupled with the response for non-appearance. I think there's an attachment 987. It starts from 986 and 987. Even though on the pack it's not visible because of the printing.
Yeah, it's not really a clear document, but MEC, thank you that you're saying you'll get to the bottom of this, because it is imperative that you do. We cannot have an official who, with one, tone, he says there's no attachment and suddenly nothing has been received. Clearly something is amiss there. Something is not really adding up. But as I said before we started with this engagement, what is really paramount for this hearing is about the scholar transport, the fact that it should be adequate and it should be efficient in the province. So the fact that you were not available, if same had been communicated properly, it was definitely not a problem. As you have now heard in the morning, we have made arrangements for the MEC for COSATMA to avail himself on another day because he said that today he's not available. So it is possible to, postpone matters just to ensure that you are also accommodated, because we accept you are the most important person in the department. And of course, there are other responsibilities that are also equally important for you to attend to. For instance, what was reported was that you were busy with is it sports and which is for children. And that is also very important, because whilst they could be children who would become professionals one day, there are those that would want to go into sports as professionals. So it's very much crucial to pay attention to all the aspects of the development of our children. So with the difficulties of really comprehending some of these challenges, but as I said, I will accept so that we can move forward. We're now going to allow you an opportunity, MEC, to then make a presentation, which will then be followed by the questions from the team. So you do not have to read verbatim the presentation. You're welcome to maybe allude to those aspects, especially after having heard what COSATMA has presented, that you think it is crucial to canvass. And of course, some will still come out because the team will then decide on what else to engage you on. So over to you, MEC. You may start. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Commissioner.
Commissioner, if I may come in, I'm sorry to rudely disturb. We've looked at the response from the MEC's office, and it mirrors what the HOD spoke to. We humbly request that Mr. Mdabe, since it's our planning, handles this session so that we get into really what is required of the MEC for this process. I don't know whether the commissioner or chairperson will allow me to suggest that. Thank you.
I hear you, but just to be fair to the MEC, after this whole engagement, I would want her just to settle in and let her at least state those that she's really comfortable with, that can put the department on a good footing, if it's possible. And then, of course, we can allow Mr. Mdabe to engage. That is why I said she does not have to read verbatim the entire report, but she can zoom into some of the issues that were raised by the HOD of COSATMA and the chief director there, or she can, pick on those that she might have heard were problematic during the questioning. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I'll seek guidance. Remember, we did respond in writing. So I just want to check in terms of expectations from me. Do I have to summarize all the responses regarding the questions that were requested from the Department of Education?
All right, it looks like the MEC wants us to go your route with the question that she has posed. I suppose maybe MEC, let's rather, if you are comfortable, then let's allow the team to rather probe so that you don't have to try and find yourself in that voluminous report that you have. So I will then concede Mr. Nkonde that Mr. Mdabe, as you requested, can then start with the questions. Over to you, Mr. Mdabe.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you very much, Commissioner. MEC, I suppose The best way to start is exactly the way I've been doing it, which is to have a conversation about your how you understand your obligation as the department, and of course there might be instances where we disagree. That is also allowed. But in terms of your report, and this is some of the issues are similar to the issues that were highlighted in the previous bundle by Mr. Masilo. But your report starts at page 1005. Confirm if that is true.
That is true, Commissioner.
And in your report, you highlight a number of challenges. For instance, at paragraph A of your report in the first page, you highlight that there are issues of overloading and additional distance operated. And that's the summary of the challenges that you outline. That's the first part. That's the first thing you mentioned there. And then you give two examples of where that is the case. But I suppose from your part, you are conceding the weight of the evidence by previous witnesses that have come to the commission saying that overloading is a problem. Is that a concession on your part?
100% correct.
Then the second issue you highlight is the service inconsistency. Do you want to explain what that is? From your report, I only have subcontracting and lease agreement as a brief explanation of what that challenge is. Do you mind explaining what that is?
Okay. No, thank you very much for the question, Commissioner. Let me start by indicating that as the department, in terms of scholar transport, we are encountering in terms of inconsistencies, in terms of services by the service providers from COSATMA, whereby in most instances, we find ourselves in a situation whereby there is a non-attendance of learners. Then you receive a report from the district to say that this particular bus did not manage to pick up the learners to the school. Not only that, the issue of the very same scholar transport, where in most instances, the bus will just stuck. In some instances, when you are investigating why the learners did not reach their final destination, which is the school, the operators consistently, so they will indicate that they have not received their payments. Therefore, they don't have a capacity actually for the diesel and to pay also their operators. So there are so many inconsistencies. In many instances, you'll get responses because sometimes some of us become frustrated to a point whereby now the principals communicate directly to the service providers. They will also actually indicate issues like the routes to say that the money is not worth it. They are working at a loss. That is why they are abandoning the routes. So actually those are the inconsistencies that we are referring to And also the issue that was raised by the HOD there to say that some they are complaining about the conditions of our roads, to say that they are not coping at all, where they have to take their buses to services every month. So actually those are the inconsistencies that as the department we have actually discovered.
So essentially, the service inconsistency seems to suggest that there might be instances where learners are unable to be physically at school as a result of a number of reasons that you have just mentioned. But the corollary of your point is that learners may not be physically at school as a result of the inconsistency.
100%, in some instances, they arrive late, actually.
Then you seem to mention road infrastructure and emerging storm damages, damaged bridges, and roads. This point is incidental to what we're talking about here, which is called a transport. But it talks about infrastructure as something associated to that. How do you link the two?
For example, Commissioner, since the beginning of this year, actually from last year, Northwest is one of the provinces that was affected by storms, where we experienced challenges in most of the areas where the bridges are not user-friendly. Not being user-friendly, the service providers now, they had no choice and actually to reroute, to redirect how they transport these learners. So normally they would actually indicate to us to say that due to the fact that the distances now are no longer the same as the actual distances that they've agreed upon with the department, the unfortunate part is that they cannot even claim more because they've signed a contract with COSATMA. Hence, in most instances, they disengage.
Yeah. So it would be fair to say, if you were to locate this within the conversation of our issue today, which is scholar transport, then it would be fair for someone to recharacterize this as a changing of route or rerouting. Is that where you are in terms of thinking?
Yes.
All right. And that has the financial implications for the drivers. And then the second part, then the third part, which you mentioned, is the parents' choice, school of choice. That seems to be very far from what we're talking about here, but I'm sure you seem to be perfectly making the links.
Commissioner, according to the guidelines regarding the issue of, or the framework regarding the issue of the scholar transport and the objective behind the scholar transport, our focus was mainly on learners from farm areas, the disadvantaged. And also you must remember that in the Department of Education, we have categorized our schools into quintiles, quintile 1 until quintile 5, where quintile 1 to 3, those are non-fee schools, where actually we are providing our learners with NSNP, food. So in most instances, we are encountering challenges whereby there is a township having schools in that particular township, but a parent decides she does not want to take her learner to that particular school that is nearby her residence. He rather go to those particular schools to register their learners there. Not necessarily that they don't have proper schools around that particular area. That's where we are encountering challenges. That is why we are seeing the numbers increasing. Because you'll find in a township, maybe there's a school, but it's not a non-fee school. Therefore, that particular parent does not maybe afford to pay school fees in that particular school. So rather take her child to that particular school. But that is not the case always. Remember, it's all about preference. You'll find there's this particular school away from the township where a parent believes that in terms of delivery of curriculum, it seems like that particular school performs more than the nearby school. So he prefers actually to register her child with that particular school. Now we are being forced actually now to make sure that we provide transportation for those particular learners.
Yeah. All right. The explanation seems to be too far, but let me recharacterize it, and you will disagree with me if you. So the point is this: if there's a learner who's traveling 5 kilometers, then an obligation on your part is kick-started.
Yes.
Despite
Yeah,
everything
okay.
you've said.
According to the guidelines are very clear to say that any learner who's traveling from 5 kilometers away from her residence to that particular school, that particular learner actually deserve transportation.
All right. That-
But only for those particular quintiles that I've just indicated, for only disadvantaged, for only the non-fee paying schools.
Yeah. So I'm recharacterizing this for the purposes of our conversation today. The reason why I'm pointing at 5 kilometers because the policy already talks about that. Whatever the reasoning is of the parent is not important to you for the purposes of the conversation today. What is important, at least for the purposes of our conversation, is that an obligation has been discharged because a certain condition exists, which is that 5 kilometers is the distance that separates the learner and the school.
Agreed.
That's the recharacterization. And then and then there's then the fourth point, which is using non-compliant and unroadworthy vehicles that is understood. I will not take you through all of that. So that already exists and also exists in the presentation by Mr. Masil. You also say there's inadequate infrastructure monitoring. This is important. You might want to explain this. Inadequate and infrequent monitoring. I'm sorry about that.
Like the HOD responsible for CASADMA has already alluded to, I must indicate that in terms of monitoring, we are also responsible as the department because these learners belongs to us. We are responsible of making sure that there is monitoring over transportation of our learners. But one must indicate that as the Department of Education, we are still struggling in terms of human capital. But the policy is very clear and straightforward. And South African School Act also, it is straightforward in terms of the roles and responsibilities of our SGBs. From our SGBs, in terms of issues of monitoring and so on, there is a subcommittee formed specifically for learner scholar transport, but must also bear in mind that these SGBs are not full-time. Hence, we are saying inadequate monitoring also remains a challenge in terms of reporting. And from the sides of COSATMA also, there is not adequate monitoring from their side because in most instances, we are encountering challenges where these particular service providers, they don't actually do what is expected from them, but it must be us consistently so who must report actually for intervention from COSATMA. So in many instances, that long chain of reporting also, it is a problem to us as the Department of Education to address each and every challenge that we are encountering, kanako and so on.
And then the last point is then the fraudulent use of learner tickets by, you say, parents stroke relatives in special schools. You might want to explain that before I ask my question.
Okay. In terms of our special schools, we do have systems in place, but they do have tickets in order to monitor whether these particular learners, they do report to their different schools and so on. But in most instances, you'll find where a learner, maybe she is sick or he is sick. Instead of reporting to school, the parent will take advantage of that and use that particular learner's ticket. I'll also assist actually between the HOD and also the DDG responsible to go deeper in terms of especially this particular process, so that it is being understood properly.
I don't know if you can hear me, Commissioner. Okay. No, the MEC is correct. That is what we observed. And then already what we did was to respond to that anomaly by then asking the school governing bodies to then identify a transport. For instance, they then identify maybe a combi that will then ferry those learners from home to school. The reason being that we then wanted to curb what has been raised there. So as we speak, that matter is now being addressed. We are no more going to be utilizing the tickets because we realized that this fraudulency happening. Thank you, Coach.
All right. So this issue is also related to, this is my recharacterization. You will tell me if it's wrong. This issue is a monitoring issue. Do you agree?
100%.
All right. So then if you have a right in the Constitution that says everyone has a right to basic education, and that right is absolute, no limitation. The language ends there. Everyone has a right to basic education, and you can't think of any limitation that stands as an hindrance to that right. Would you then agree that if you have issues of overloading, issues of inconsistency, issues of rerouting, and then issues where learners who are entitled to accessing the policy because they travel very far, and lack of monitoring. But in the last instance, there might be instances where you've done some monitoring. All of those constitute the core content of the right to education. You agree with that characterization?
100%.
Would you then say in each one of these, your department has violated the right to education? Let me tell you why before you answer that question. It's a good thing to have an honest conversation, because then it's an adventure to engage in truth, because then you might discover that there are solutions after that. So before you answer the question, let's have an honest conversation. Has there been violation of the right to education as a result of these instances?
Commissioner, I would say that based on the factors raised here, that hinders progress in terms of us doing justice to education to our learners. One would say that yes, indeed, they disadvantaged our learners. In a way, you are 100% correct. Based on these particular challenges, in a way, we are violating the rights of our learners because it is our responsibility of making sure that we protect them. There is no disruption. For the fact that as the department, we do admit that somewhere, somehow, based on these particular challenges, there are some learners who are actually disadvantaged compared to those who consistently so receiving services from the department that are being disadvantaged. I agree with you.
Yeah. And that is good for the witnesses who have come here and said exactly that, because then it validates what they have said. But then the next leg, after you admit that there's a violation, the question is always this: how are we going to remedy it? And you do provide an explanation as to how you do that. We're going to explore how you suggest you have done that, and to the extent that I find disagreement in how you go about doing it, I'll tell you where I think I have a problem with your approach. But let's go to your report. So the first thing you say at paragraph B, the the department then conducts the needs analysis. That's paragraph B. And then number two, what you also do is that you also submit, you call this continued submission of learner transport challenges through district officials and committee meetings held on quarterly basis. And then number three, you say you do the capacitation of the SGBs in respect of enforcement of the code of conduct. These are the three things you do. And you say that these measures are implemented to address the challenges and improve the program's efficiency. And then you also say there are additional measures. And these additional measures, you mention them there at paragraph C. You say you conduct regular bus overloading audits per district. And then you also say you conduct joint monitoring with law enforcement. And then you also say you engage public works to speedily assess and repair the affected routes. And I suppose there you were talking about the road infrastructure issues. And then the fourth thing that you do is you conduct road shows and awareness campaigns. And then you also conduct campaigns to address the concerns parents have about these things. And then you conduct workshops to explain the code of conduct. And then you also refer to something called the blitz monitoring by both departments to ensure compliance. And then you say you accelerate plans to build mega schools. All of these are things you say you are able to do, at least in partnership at times, but also individually as a department. These are the measures you take to ensure that there is a vindication of the violation of the right.
100% correct.
But then there are measures you also place at the door of COSATMA, and that's at paragraph D. I'm not going to go through all of those, but my question is this: how do you separate these obligations? What guides the separation of these obligations?
Okay. Commissioner, we have to understand one thing about the Department of Education. Remember, as the Department of Education, our core mandate is very clear and straightforward. Ours is to make sure that we deliver quality education to our learners. That is why we are in position, we have powers actually to hire teachers and principals in making sure that they provide services on our behalf as the Department of Education. But also, we must admit that there are things that are beyond our control, but they are directly affecting the Department of Education. And as the Department of Education, we cannot just fold our arms and say those particular things, they don't fall within the function of the Department of Education. Hence, we did mention to say that for now, these actually are the measures that we feel that as the Department of Education will be able to implement in order to address all these particular challenges that we are confronted with, in making sure that we deliver education to our learners without fail, looking at the challenges that are confronted with. That is why a long-term plans, we are very clear as the Department of Education to say that we have acknowledged and admitted that we are encountering challenges in terms of scholar transport. And we know that it is our own policy. Unfortunately, the own policy of ours is backfiring, but we cannot just fold our arms. We took it upon ourselves to say that, I think it is high time for us to identify those particular challenges and come up with possible solutions, because whether we like it or not, at the end, we must come up with the solutions to avoid a situation whereby we are being summoned by the commission to come and accounting for the things that we know that actually human rights, they are right about it. We are actually violating the rights of this particular learners generally. That is why we are saying the SGBs are there, but we admit that as much as we are having SGBs, they don't have sufficient resources in making sure that they address whatever challenges that are there, they close those particular gaps. That is why we are saying where we are, we have identified that our roads also contributes, like I've already indicated, that we have been experiencing challenges, the rerouting, learners not reaching the final destination and so on due to issues of road infrastructure. It is our responsibility as the Department of Education of engaging with the sister department, because we cannot operate in silos. It is our responsibility to say that, there's this particular route that actually hampers progress in the Department of Education because we want to improve the results. Still on that, we are saying, as a Department of Education, why not actually for permanent solution? Why not having mega schools? We are having only 3 mega schools across the province. It is only Dr. KK which does not have that particular mega school, but it's part of the plans that the last financial year, where I did pronounce to say that finally we are going to build a school in Volmaranstad, Reismes built, which is a mega school. Those particular mega schools, they can accommodate more than 1,000 learners, and the hostels are there. And then it's for the disadvantaged learners. So rather than spending more money in terms of having this particular scholar transport that actually does not assist us, actually it has brought problems in the department, which hampers progress, because we want to see ourselves also performing in terms of a quality education. Hence, we saw it fit that why not coming up with this particular proposal? It must not only be proposal, it must be something for implementation. That is why those factors that are beyond our control as the Department of Education, that is why we're very clear to say that these ones, they must be done by who? By COSATMA, as long as they are still having scholar transport. Unless if maybe we resolve in this particular commission to say that, you know what, a Department of Education, because you don't have control over this thing, and continuously so you are violating, but you are violating without having powers actually to rectify or to correct. Let's relocate that particular scholar transport back to the Department of Education so that we are able to have a full control of that particular scholar transport. But that is something for another discussions. But what I was trying to indicate or emphasize before the commission is that these are the measures that we feel as the Department of Education, if they can be addressed, definitely will no longer have another inquiry relating to issues of scholar transport.
Yeah. The reason why I'm raising this with you is because at national policy level, there seems to be a reference to a joint and shared vision. And unless you clearly understand that, I don't intend to
I do.
go to it.
I do.
But it seems that that's a joint vision between the two departments. You're saying that is creating problems for you.
I'm not saying it's creating problems per se. I'm saying we are here appearing before human rights and acknowledge that we are working together with COSATMA. Even the HOD did indicate, by the way, I'm the one actually who proposed that we must have a committee where we integrate both the department together to close that particular gap of communication so that we avoid a situation whereby there is this blaming games between the two departments because it's not assisting us. At the end, we have to service our people and that's it. So I'm saying, as much as we are having that joint arrangement with the two departments, still we are encountering challenges and we have to admit. So we have to find ways to check which methods can be used in order to address, because we cannot forever having meetings where we are trying our level best to solve or to provide solution to whatever. That is what I'm saying. Maybe the permanent solution that can also assist us in terms of having that long chain, rather having that particular one department that will come here and speak with authority, having powers over that particular function. Why not relocating that particular function from COSATMA to the Department of Education to avoid this gap that we see, to say that for things to happen, it means that the department must start now to report to COSATMA. COSATMA must start now to implement, rather than taking a full responsibility as the Department of Education. So that tomorrow, when I'm here to say that I admit that there is a violation. There is a violation, but the unfortunate part is that as the Department of Education, we are the victims, because some of these things, we don't have control over them because the function is being located somewhere where we don't have full control of.
Yeah.
But I'm not suggesting anything. I was just providing to say that when we are discussing this, finding the permanent solution, let's exhaust all the avenues where we would say, in the seventh administration, through the collaboration between the commission and the relevant department, this is how we have dealt with this issue of scholar transport.
Yeah, thank you. No, yeah, yeah.
You even referred to him, Mr. Sonakile. He actually did mention that there has been that conversation. And I thought, because I'm sure you are part of those that would have spoken to this, would know whether it is receiving favorable results or there's still a backlash where that is concerned. Because, with one, from one tone you say, I'm not really advocating for it, but I realize that I'm coming here with my hands tied and absolutely have no full control. But there has been a talk. Are you aware of this?
Yes, there has been, actually there was a debate in the legislature, and that particular debate, actually it was sponsored by the relevant portfolio committee responsible for education, because in most instances, they will seek responses and expect accountability from myself as the MEC responsible. But the unfortunate part is that they felt that we are not doing justice to this particular matter because I don't have total control over it. But procedurally, remember, after those particular discussions, now it will rely on EXCO because the premier is the one who can take whatever function from one department to another based on the needs.
So whilst there has been a debate, there hasn't been any move. Is there a motion?
We have exhausted that part of motions and the debate from the legislature. Now it will depend on the EXCO because the recommendations must still go straight to EXCO for further considerations. So at the level of EXCO, I can confirm that we have not yet reached that point where we are starting to open discussions regarding this particular matter.
Thank you, Chairperson. Okay, what I want to do in this conversation now is not to be disrespectful, but it's for us to be, let me take a different position and you take that position that you are on now. So my position is going to be this, that as part of the joint vision, that you joint obligation, in fact, you do have that obligation. That is the point that I'm going to make, and I'm going to be taking you through some of the documents that have been shared, at times even by your department, to say that for the purposes of our conversation, in fact, you do provide a solution in the same way COSATMA provide a solution. Let us go to the memorandum of understanding, and this is in the first bundle of our documents, that page 258. I'm sorry, I can't lift my thing. I can't. It messes up my. The old. I'm sorry, I can't help you. It's part A of the bundle of the 11th and the 13th of March. That was the time when the MEC was not here, not the new one. Okay, we don't have it.
It's part B of the first bundle.
It's the first one, part A.
Part A. Okay, part B. Okay, part B.
But also, let's if you can't find that, there is also another reference which I think may be at hand, which is, oh God, where did I take this one? It's at it's the national policy, the new bundle. It's in the new bundle at 148. That's part A. Yeah. Part B.
Part B.
The new bundle, page 148. Yeah.
148.
Ikabe 700. It's a continuation.
Okay, so there at paragraph 2.1.5 at page 148.
148. Okay.
No. Are you on the old bundle?
Part B.
Of which bundle?
First bundle.
Which date?
29 to 30 April.
This one. It's part B first bundle.
148.
They are on part B first bundle.
And we also have part A first bundle for 11 to 13 March.
When I'm trying to.
Yes.
A first
No. I've taken this out from here. Are you on page 148?
Yes.
Are you able to see the policy there? As a government gazette, 23 October 2015, is that where you are?
Yes.
Okay, let me read the paragraph. So we're looking at the first paragraph. It reads as follows: planning of learner transport must be discussed by provincial and municipal planning structures to ensure that it is integrated with provincial strategies and municipalities. In fact, that's not what I want to read. I want to read the one above that one. Institutional mechanism will be established at provincial and local level to foster integrated planning, effective monitoring and delivery of learner transport services. This paragraph seems to suggest that the planning itself should be an integrated a process. Would you agree that at a level of planning, whether you're planning for resources and you're planning for whatever you're planning for the purposes of implementing this policy, it needs to be an integrated process? In other words, your obligation and COSATMA's obligations are 50-50. Is that your characterization of this?
Yes, actually further, it involves also, it does not actually refers only to COSATMA per se. Actually, it also refers to another sphere, which is local government, where they must also be involved. It also it involves, one would say that the issue that I've raised, that one of the road infrastructure, meaning that also public works and the municipality, because the internal roads belongs to the municipality. Also, they must form part in terms of planning going forward.
Yes.
So I do agree that each and every provincial government and that local government sphere, it must be part of the planning, it must be integrated.
Yeah. And then at page 150 of the same document, that's the policy statement there at paragraph 3.1.2. It says a joint planning committee on learner transport with representative of the Provincial Department of Transport, Provincial Department of Education, and municipalities will be established. And that's a joint planning committee.
Agreed. That is why when you go to the guidelines in relation with rationalization and realignment of our schools, before you can rationalize any school, there must be processes that needs to be followed, where each and every stakeholder must be involved, so that tomorrow, when you finalize to say that indeed we are ready as the Department of Education to rationalize this particular school, it must be an agreement between all the relevant stakeholders where public participation also is encouraged. So I'm supporting this to say that as the Department of Education, this is what actually we've been doing. For us to decide in terms of the routes, for us to decide that this particular school actually qualifies for a scholar transport, it means that we have to go through these particular processes in making sure that it becomes a success.
So the point that I'm trying to make here is that, to my point, is that you are not as disempowered as you would like to think. The Department of Education is in fact in the same position as COSATMA, and you are not as disempowered as you would like to think. There is enough arsenal in the policy framework to allow you to act.
But remember, Commissioner, for us to address each and every challenge that is there, it is all about budget. For us to address each and every challenge that is there, it's all about budget. The question is, who is responsible for budget? So we believe that as the Department of Education, as much as the policy emphasizes the issue of integration, because the fact of the matter, besides the policy, each and every department needs each other. That is why the emphasis, we cannot operate independently from each other. But the fact of the matter here, the issues that we are raising as the Department of Education is that we are being disempowered on the basis that the unfortunate part is that we can't act with immediate effect. Because for you to act to address whatever challenges that is there, you have to make sure there's issue of budget, and then you are authorized actually to take whatever decision. So for us to address whatever challenge that is we are faced with a scholar transport, as the department, we have to report somewhere and wait for that particular department for implementation. So we believe that that particular gap actually is not assisting the department. Because if that was the case, you can go to Gauteng, if I'm not mistaken, or Free State, where actually scholar transport is located in the Department of Education. You compare it with the Northwest, you go to news. Normally, one of the provinces that are dominating when it comes to issues of scholar transport, I'm not going to talk about accidents or whatsoever, but issues of conditions, issues of non-compliance, issues of actually the scholar transport not transporting the learners consistently. Northwest is dominating because we don't have control over scholar transport. Ours ke go kopa go tswa ko COSATMA for interventions in terms of implementation. As the MEC, I cannot talk with authority because I don't have any powers actually to intervene with immediate effect. So that is the argument that I'm raising. But I'm in agreement with you 100% to say that whether the budget is there or whatsoever, we still need each and every department in the province.
No, I'm doing something worse than you suggest. I'm saying, and I'm being honest to you, that I'm saying you are not disempowered. That's number one. Number two, what I'm saying is that even the planning for the budget, you have an obligation to be part of that. That's the point that I'm making. There isn't anything in policy to suggest your policy position, which has no backing in policy. The point that you're making now has no backing in policy. Policy gives you an obligation, whether that policy obligation is joined with COSATMA, but you still have it. That includes budgeting in terms of this policy. But then I'll move to something else to make this point, and I won't take your time, but we'll be referring to the facts, and there's an amount of 89 million that has been made reference to you And we are told that you are disempowered when it comes to that. And all you can do is submit the needs analysis and then wait for the process to take place.
Which
We will come to that, but let's go to the memorandum of understanding. It's on part A of the old bundle, the bundle of 11 to 13 March. It's part A, and it's at page.
11 to 13
The page that I'm looking for is page 256. 256. I'm sorry.
56.
Yes.
One 5256. One 5256. Yeah, I think we do have a copy.
Yes. What is happening here, MEC? You will agree or disagree with me, is that you have national policy that is clear on obligations, and then you have a memorandum of understanding that does something else. And here it says, this is at paragraph 5.1, yes. And we are looking at point J, which is at 24257. So part of your obligation is to make submission of resource planning for budgeting. There is an abbreviation here. Do you mind helping me with that? It's Northwest Department of.
Community safety and transport management.
So you make submission of resource plan for budgeting to COSATMA on annual basis. This is not in line with the national plan, with the national policy. This is part of your obligation at paragraph 5. So all you do is submit a plan to COSATMA and then wait for them to be touched by God. And then you have to wait. So then to understand to be a correct characterization of your obligation in terms of national policy.
Come again, I did not capture you
Okay.
correctly because now we are talking about the memorandum of understanding between us and COSATMA versus the national policy. If you can, so that I understand.
National policy is adopted by the Department of Education. And it says all kinds of things. And part of that is that the obligation is placed on you and COSATMA jointly to discharge the obligation to provide scholar transport. And then in your memorandum of understanding, you are then given an obligation to submit only the resource plan to COSATMA and do no more than that.
Agreed.
The constraints come from the memorandum of understanding, yes or no?
Yes And like I've already alluded to, the very same memorandum of understanding, it is based on the current arrangement whereby now I don't have powers over the very same budget. Now it's relocated, the function is relocated to that particular department. That is why there are so many limitations.
When you have a national policy and then an understanding between two parties, which one, in your view, would take precedent?
This memorandum of understanding cannot supersede the national one.
Would you agree with my case? We can move to a different point. Would you agree with my case that, and I'm putting this to you, that the disempowerment that you were talking about is not as a matter of policy. The disempowerment comes as a result of your own arrangement with COSATMA.
I agreed, we have created ourselves this particular problem.
Thank you. Now, this is the problem that we have. Mr. Masilo is saying there are 8,000 odd students that have not been planned for. Now, there's an explanation for why that is the case by Mr. Kekan. But an amount of 89 million has been now bandied about as the new amount for the planning for those peoples. Having had the conversation that we've just had, would you say you are disempowered in that process? Were you in fact involved in the submission to Treasury of that 89 million application?
I would say no, our responsibility, like already the MOU has just highlighted, our responsibility from the Department of Education is just to submit the needs analysis after our audit to COSATMA. Then the rest lies with COSATMA together with Treasurer.
If you agree that it is an unlawful characterization of your own obligation, or that is a mischaracterization of your obligation that needs fixing.
I agree 100%, and I'm grateful to be part of this commission. Hence, these are one of the things as the Department of Education, like I've already indicated, to say that we have been trying our level best to check where our challenges actually comes from, but would come up with solutions, and those particular solutions would not actually bear good fruits. But from these particular discussions, at least I've learned something. I've identified a gap that needs to be closed as a matter of urgency.
The MEC, I want to then canvass this point with you, which is the point of budget and obligation. And we need to go back to the right now. So once you are told that you have an obligation to discharge the right, which is the right to basic education for children, then you need to plan for it. And as part of your planning is that you need to be part of the budget making process, the planning making process, whether at design and at the level of implementation. This MOU has disempowered you.
Agreed.
But you continued with it. You continued with the MOU, and as a result, you mischaracterized your own obligations.
Hence, Commissioner, I've admitted before the commission to say that I'm grateful actually to be part of this particular meeting. I further indicated that as the department, we have been working closely with the Department of COSATMA we have identified so many challenges and we came up with so many solutions where some of those particular solutions did not work at all. But through this particular engagements, I'm being empowered actually by the human rights to say that there's a loophole. Go back, make sure that you correct. By correcting that, we don't think Hore will encounter the challenges that we have been encountering as the Department of Education.
Yeah. Mr. Kekan has mentioned 3 sites in which this can take place, this correction can take place. Now, I don't think it can on WhatsApp, but you let me know. I don't think it can through a call center, but there's something called the war room. And in the war room, he mentioned 2 things that have been identified as challenges. One is the issue of budgets, and the second one is the issue of audits. It seems to me the war room is in fact proper compliance with national policy as opposed to the MOU. It is that joint thing that you desire in terms of national policy, not the MOU.
Agreed.
To what extent have you been involved? We have already, you need to tell me whether you agree also with this. Because you have not been part of the budget planning, now all you did was submit the needs analysis. You are unable to assess whether there could be an adjustment of the budget, of the existing budget, to ensure that the right is, or there could be a case to be made to Treasury for an acceleration of the budget so that the 8,000 students that we are talking about can be accommodated. You are unable to do that work.
So far, what one must respond to and admit to, like I've already admitted to say that from our discussions, it seems like there has been a gap. As the Department of Education also, we have not actually been doing justice when it comes to issues of budget, assisting COSATMA in making sure that all our issues are being addressed. We believe that from this particular meeting, we'll go back. First thing what we have to do is to review this memorandum of understanding, because remember, even this particular memorandum of understanding, it was signed 2015. So it must be reviewed. So based on what we have identified as a gap or as contributing factors to us not actually be able to achieve our mandate, we believe that first thing what we have to do is to review this particular MOU because it's binding, whether we like it or not. Then from there, we'll start now to plan properly. Where as the Department of Education, we are going to make sure that we participate from phase 1 until the last phase, because whether we like it or not, that we are the clients, these particular learners who are affected, they don't belong to COSATMA, but rather they belong to the Department of Education.
Which one is it? Review or suspend?
Review.
Review.
It's 2025. It does not mean necessarily that all the issues contained, all the guidelines, policy issues contained in this particular memorandum of understanding, it does not mean necessarily not working for us, but we have identified that there are still gaps which needs to be reviewed. So rather suspend, why not to strengthen? Because I believe that the objective behind us having this memorandum of understanding was to actually address the issue of us not being all over the place and channel our energy where necessary based on the challenges that we are confronted with. So I think by reviewing this particular and make sure that it does not contradict actually the national policy, I believe that definitely it will assist us.
Yeah. There are a couple of things the memorandum is not doing, and I'm going to come to 2 aspects before I conclude. One other thing that the policy does not do is something that we've been complaining about, which is, and the national policy does this. It does say something about universal access, which is some theory around accommodating learners with disabilities. Your memorandum does not do that.
One must confirm and indicate that when it comes to learners with disability, I'm talking about special schools. We take full responsibility in terms of scholar transport. We are providing our own learners with scholar transport. That is why it is not part of this MOU. Unless if maybe HOD, I've misquoted this, but where I'm seated, what I know is that when it comes to special schools, they're not part of the needs analysis. Rona on its own as the department, we are dealing with our own issues when it comes to learners with special needs.
The evidence of Mr. Khaitate, for instance, seems to suggest that that's the problem. He seems to suggest that this issue does not relate only to special schools, and that you may find learners who are going to, I don't want to call them normal schools,
Public schools.
Mainstream schools, and it's a problem that
But
learners with disabilities are not accommodated in this framework.
No. Scholar transport from the Department of COSATMA, it deals mainly with public schools. When it comes to special schools, we take full responsibility of making sure that we provide them with the scholar transport that is compliant.
Would you say there's no case of learners with disabilities who are accessing this the scholar transport in the mainstream schools?
One would say that according to our policy, the reason why we are having special schools, it's specifically for learners with special needs. But still on that, there are cases, but we are continuing with auditing because it's our responsibility. And as the Department of Education, like I've already indicated to say that we have built special schools specifically for learners with special needs. By the way, there are learners with special needs who are writing that NSC, and there are those learners with disability who actually don't qualify to write that NSC. So what we do normally, and then even our teachers and then principals, they are aware about our policy to say that if there is any learner in any public school, it is their responsibility actually to inform the department so that that particular learners are being transferred to schools telling hore they are compliant in terms of their needs. But I can confirm a practical example can be given to that incident, Butch Sport, where we have discovered that actually around that particular area, there were two learners with special needs, but they were not severe. There was this other one who was short-sighted, whom that we managed to assist in terms of spectacles. And there was this other one with crutches, who was able actually to assist himself when using a scholar transport. But that's not what we are encouraging. Learners with special needs are learners with special needs. Hence, as the Department of Education, we saw it fit and imperative that we must have schools separate specifically for them. Not to say that we are discriminating them, but remember it goes also with a matter of compliance. So we have received a report in that particular regard where we have checked what led to those particular learners be left actually in that particular school. We were provided with evidence to say that one of the reasons behind those particular learners, actually they were traveling from a township to a farm school. So now we have received positive reports to say that those particular learners are no longer using a scholar transport. They were transferred to Tihani, neighbor schools there, where the parents did indicate that it's not like it's severe. That particular learner only needed the spectacles.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take that point further, but I have some reservations around that. But then I want to ask maybe the last point on inspection. Mr. Kekane mentioned that as part of the measures that they've taken is the idea of an inspection unit. Or are you, as the department, part of that?
The HOD did mention that actually it's one of their interventions, proposals to say that they intend to do that inspection unit in their department to address that particular issue that we have raised, to say that there are some inconsistencies in terms of inspection of this scholar transport or whatsoever. We have not yet actually arrived to that particular point of the discussions, but we are in support of that particular unit, as it will assist us as the department to close that particular gap that we have identified, to say that it seems like this particular scholar transport are not thoroughly inspected or consistently inspected. Hence, we are encountering challenges of unroadworthy scholar transport and so on.
You've made a lot of concessions, and I want you to make this concession now. There's a violation. There's a mischaracterization of your own obligation. That violation is not justifiable. And I probably want to solicit your view on that before I close.
When we started, I was very clear in terms of our mandate as the Department of Education to say that as the department, we remain committed to our core mandate, which is to deliver quality education to our learners. And also we take responsibility as the custodians of our own Constitution of South Africa. That is very clear in terms of rights to education. We admit that as much as the Department of Education, we have tried our level best of making sure that we don't contravene the very same constitution. But the unfortunate part is that there was a point where we were encountering some challenges that led us actually not to comply as a department. We are going to continue to commit ourselves in making sure that we go back, like I've already alluded to. There are things, many things, by the way, before the commission that I've learned that we were not even aware of. The commission managed actually to open our eyes as the Department of Education. The commission actually, they have empowered us with information that we were not aware of, but being part of our own decisions. So ours is to go back to basics. We remain committed to our children. We'll try our level best to close gaps wherever they are. This is a system. As much as we close other gaps, automatically, it does not mean necessarily that we are going to get the final solutions, but we'll continue to strive in making sure that we comply, because we are talking about rights of our own people, that we took an oath to say that whatever that we do, we're going to make sure that we protect their rights. Thank you very much.
My question wasn't answered, Commissioner, but
Was-
I'm willing to let it go. That was my last question, Commissioner. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mdabe. Any other questions from the team? Should I start with you, Mr. Mdabe? Are you covered?
I'm covered, Commissioner. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tabe.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just have question for the MEC regarding special schools and learners with disabilities. MEC, in your presentation, you mentioned that learners with disabilities are encouraged to be admitted in special schools, right? And my understanding of a special school is that it's a school that provides specialized education and support for students with special educational needs, and that these schools are designed to cater to learners whose needs cannot be met within mainstream schooling. Is that correct?
I think one must, I don't know how to approach it. Like I've already indicated to say that according to our terms as the Department of Education, when you say this is a learner with special needs, it does not mean necessarily that it only covers the issue of IQ level or whatsoever. But we believe that for the fact that that particular learner has a disability, we consider him or her as a learner with special needs. And those particular learners, hence we have taken a decision to say that to safeguard them, to protect them, hence we are having specifically special schools so that they are able to be assisted in those particular schools. So I don't know whether because the problem that I'm having with the definition, unless maybe I don't understand the definition, it seems like it refers only to those particular learners. Ba e le gore in terms of IQ level or whatsoever, they are not up to a certain standard where they can be taught with these other learners. Hence, I did mention that we are having special schools, but it does not mean necessarily those particular learners cannot write this national certificate. So I don't know whether but I'll allow maybe the HOD also to explain. You want to explain it? Yeah. So I just wanted to differentiate. Normally, under normal circumstance, now when I was immediately after being appointed, when I was told that MEC, across the province, we are having 32 special schools, I thought it's only those particular learners whom that we are not actually exposing them. They're not subjected to that normal curriculum or whatsoever. But later on, I was clarified to say that it's not the case always. You'll find how there's a learner with a wheelchair, but that particular learner will be able to write that national certificate, the grade 12, where it's part of the grade 12 results. So the special schools are accommodative of both. There are those who cannot be subjected to write the grade 12 certificate. There are those, it's only the issue at the body and so on, but the IQ level, they qualify actually to write that grade 12 certificate.
So you are saying that there are special schools that provide mainstream education?
Yes.
Okay, I ask this because when we conduct monitoring in schools, some of the things that we check for is ramps for learners with wheelchairs, handrails in the bathrooms and going to the classrooms. And that's because there is an expectation that, at a lack of a better word, I'll say a normal school, an ordinary school has to be able to accommodate learners on wheelchairs, learners that are using crutches, learners who do not have any learning disabilities, learners who can actually thrive in the mainstream education. And that's why in the previous setting, when the previous presenters were giving their evidence, all of them that I've asked was whether the scholar transport providers are accommodating these learners. And they all said that there was no accommodation for these learners. And while there may not be that learner there in those schools today, should it happen that next month there is a parent who feels that this school is the closest, I can monitor my child, therefore I'm going to, I would like for my child to actually go to this specific school for whatever reason, because their child wouldn't have any learning disability. It means, does this mean that this child is not going to be accommodated? Because it seems like these scholar transport do not really accommodate these learners.
That is why I don't know whether is it the portfolio committee or is it the DBE, where there was a resolution that was taken to say that as much as we have taken this particular approach, but remember, it is within the rights of any parent, as long as that particular learner is equal to the task, to register her or his child wherever she wants to register that particular child. That is why there was a resolution that was taken to say that all our schools across the province, whether public schools or not, they must be compliant. Because remember, it's not all about these particular learners. We are also having teachers whom some of them, they are under disability. Not only that, and also parents who wants to visit and come and have one-on-one with their educators to check whether their children are performing or not. So whatever buildings that we are having, actually 100%, all of them, they must be compliant, whether there is a learner with special needs in those particular schools or not. So we're working on it. Even is part of one of our indicators, Remvula, under infrastructure, where we are monitoring how many schools so far are still outstanding in terms of issues of compliance.
Thank you for that. I guess then this then brings me to my question: why do scholar transport not accommodate? Why are they not then obliged to comply with that requirement? Because, like I said, the previous speakers mentioned that the transportation does not accommodate these learners. And sometimes there's an instance where learners had to assist a learner with on a wheelchair into the bus. So with that being said, noting that you are the department is aware of the fact that there might be learners with physical disabilities who are admitted into mainstream or ordinary schools. Why is it that there is no requirement from the department onto the providers that they need to accommodate learners with physical disabilities as well?
I can confirm before the commission that there is a continuous engagement between ourselves as the Department of Education and COSATMA in making sure that this scholar transport must also be compliant in terms of accommodating those particular kids with special needs. Hence, I did indicate even before, but it's something that is beyond our control, to say that the approach was very clear from the beginning as a Department of Education, to say that as much as we are still confronted with this particular challenge where this particular scholar transport, whether we like it or not, are not compliant, are not accommodative when it comes to those particular learners with special needs. That is why we saw it fit to build those particular schools, but it's not assisting, like you have already indicated, to say that there's going to be that particular, like I've already indicated the two learners. As much as I'm saying they were not severe, but let's agree that those particular learners are learners with special needs. I did indicate Hore, the other one was short-sighted, meaning that now it is the responsibility maybe of other learners, ha palama that particular bus, to be assisted, because we cannot say that she can be independent, whereas the very same scholar transport is not accommodative. So it's one of the things that we are busy with. That is why, as the department, in terms of our system, continuously so, we are requesting information from our schools, from our circuit and district directors, in making sure that they provide us with those particular learners. So that in the meantime, while we are still busy engaging COSATMA to actually make sure that they are compliant, in the meantime, we must be able to take them and place them where they are not going to encounter any challenges or whatsoever, in order for them to reach scholar transport or even the classrooms and so on.
Thank you. Nothing further from you, Commissioner.
Thank you so much. Mr. Koma?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon once again to all of you. Mine is to really expand on what my Leonard colleagues have already asked and to also expand on the recommendations that you have highlighted, MEC, on your submission. What role do you believe these challenges play in shaping our children's attitude towards education?
A practical example can be given to those learners, actually, of Pakedi Primary School who have dropped out. As much as we did respond to the commission to say that we were managed as the Department of Education to trace them, as much as they are back in our schools, but let's agree that they were disadvantaged because of these particular challenges. Let's agree that I believe that those particular learners, unlike before, I believe that they are still having that negative attitude towards the department because as the department, at one particular point, we failed them. We are talking about the learners who had plans for the future. We are talking about the learners actually who trusted the Department of Education to be their liberators. But unfortunately, we failed them dismally. So I believe that these particular challenges actually are the ones actually who are discouraging these particular learners as much as they are committed in making sure that they complete their matric or whatsoever. You would imagine that grade 12 learner who had to suffer each and every day for her to access that particular scholar transport to reach the final destination, which is your school. Gore e mo dira eng mentally, and ya mo discourage and so on. So I feel and confidently feel gore it contributes negatively in terms of attitude to this particular learners towards education. Whereas initially they had that thing to say that we believe that it's only education that can open our doors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, MEC. My other question is based on the issue of vetting. Are you aware that drivers are not being vetted?
I would say I believe that those particular operators actually are not vetted. A practical example can be given where maybe there's a challenge with a bus somewhere, it's stuck somewhere. Then somebody is being called, easy like now, for intervention. So automatically it means that that particular person, he was supposed to operate. He was not actually appointed by the Department of COSADMA. And that thing on its own, it says that as the department, we are exposing our learners to danger. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My other question is based on the question I asked the HOD on our previous sitting, and it's regarding private scholar transporters. He indicated that there are no regulations that regulate these private scholar transporters. What measures have you put in place or will you put in place to ensure that you mitigate the risks and challenges experienced by learners who use private scholar transport?
I think the most important thing to acknowledge as the Department of Education is that we don't have control over that private scholar transport. But the fact of the matter is that those particular learners also belongs to us as the department, and they deserve protection from us as the Department of Education. So actually what we have been doing, trying to do to close gaps when it comes to issues of private transport through QLTC, we have been actually engaging with the relevant, your Santaco and others, where we are strengthening the relations between ourselves and the Department of Education. A practical example can be given, where some teachers and principals are forever complaining to say, "Gore, di-taxi tse di a jaga. Taxi tse ha di tla go dropa bana, whether they are late or not, the noise, ya music and so on is something se e leng gore it disrupts teaching and learning and so on." So we have been trying through that particular forum, ya QLTC, to try our level best to have that relations with the relevant associations in making sure gore at the end our learners arrive safe in their respective residences. And also in our parents meeting, we also emphasize to our parents, because normally this happens more this particular schools where actually it's not a non-fee schools. So we normally engage normally with the parents to say that, there's this particular taxi, tse e leng gore we are not happy about the conduct, even the conduct of the drivers who are operating those particular taxis. In most instances, their conduct really, they are so disturbing, to a point whereby we are asking ourselves to say, gore, a mme motsadi o bone ha ngwana a tsewa a ntshiwa a ya go tsewa jalo le jalo and so on. But in most instances, private does not mean necessarily that it is being hired actually by a parent. In some instances, it's a learner who has to go to a mall, take a taxi, go to school, relying on a taxi and so on. So we are trying our level best to engage with the relevant association in making sure that the issue of compliance, more especially safety of our learners, find expression.
All right. You also indicated in your submission that one of the challenges in scholar transport is fraudulent use of learner tickets by parents in special schools. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So my assumption is that these are tickets that are being bought by parents for learners to utilize scholar transport.
No. It's us, it's for special schools. Remember, we are providing for special schools. So for the purpose of monitoring, actually, and identification, actually, we used to issue out those particular tickets to those particular learners. But after picking up, after realizing that they are not assisting us and so on, hence Remvola did indicate to say that we have to come up with another approach rather than issuing out the tickets, because they were misused by the very same relatives together with the parents.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was addressed. We are no longer using the tickets.
Okay, then let's consider on any other given scenario. We've got learners who use taxis, right? And they spend money on these transport. How then do you balance the need for cost? How do you balance the need for cost effectiveness?
Remember, we did indicate that we are guided by the policy. For a learner to qualify for scholar transport, we are guided by the policy, and I did indicate the categories of schools of learners that qualifies for scholar transport. When it comes to issue where the parents actually they have arranged, they are having their own private arrangement regarding transportation for their learners. Like I've already indicated, ga gona mo re kgonang go tsena mo teng, because it means that those particular learners, they don't qualify for scholar transport. If we are talking about public taxis, it means that they are not part of our audit analysis that were submitted actually to the COSATMA. I don't know whether I've
You have partly answered the
Okay.
question, but I will accept that.
all right.
My last question is on the issue of overcrowding. you mentioned that it's also a challenge when it comes to scholar transport challenges. Is that correct?
100%.
In your own understanding or observations or knowledge, to what extent has this occurred?
We do have records actually of some incidents where we have received actually reports from schools to say that in most instances you'll find gore an operator was supposed to provide 2 buses. Instead of providing 2 buses, he takes advantage. He rather use only 1 bus rather than taking the learners from this particular school to maybe a certain village, then go back to another school, providing 2 buses. They rather provide 1 bus. That is why we are encountering overcrowding. In some instances, some learners and some parents, they use the very same buses, whereas they are not actually supposed to use those particular buses. So I can confirm that there are incidents where we have reported to COSATMA to say that the principal has actually submitted a report to say that this particular bus, in terms of ferrying maybe 60 learners, every day is more than that. And then in most nage driver around the area could see gore that is a scholar transport. But if you look at that particular scholar transport, you can see gore the people inside are more than the expected number. So in those particular incidences, we have managed to make sure that we report the matter to COSATMA. And in many instances, they've tried their level best to address and provide intervention in that regard.
Right. There is a question that I wanted to ask, but I'm not sure if you have already answered it, but I will ask it nonetheless. But if you did answer it, you will indicate. It's the issue of your legislative powers, right? I want to understand the role that your department play in advocating for reforms and changes in legislation to address issues of these challenges, and what progress has been made in that regard.
Remember, before I'm appointed as the member of Executive Council, I'm a member of the provincial legislature. And when you talk of provincial legislatures together with your national assemblies, parliaments, that's where go dirwang melao le melawana teng. So one must indicate to say that when it comes to policies, I just wanted you to be specific. Are you talking about the policy specifically for scholar transport or generally formulation of policies?
Specifically for scholar transport.
I believe that all the relevant stakeholders, they were involved because it is the responsibility, it is a must. Each and every stakeholder must participate in order for any policy or any bill to be passed, to be an act. So I believe that even in this particular policy, the Department of Education is one of the stakeholders that was involved in making sure that they come up with that particular policy.
That will be all from me. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Apologies for the interjection at the stage. It's now after 6, and we have lost the services of our sign language interpreters because they are only appointed until 6 o'clock. And we, due to budget cuts, we don't have. Yes. So unfortunately need to stop at this stage because already there's a complaint online of people that have been following the proceedings that are relying on the sign language interpreters. And unfortunately, really, there's no one to step into their shoes and assist. So, MEC, this hearing was set down for 2 days, today and tomorrow. You're still available to assist us tomorrow.
As much as I had a commitment, Commissioner, but I'll definitely prioritize this commission for completeness. I'll definitely avail myself.
Thank you so much, MEC. So we are going to adjourn for today and we will reconvene tomorrow morning. PM, should it be 8 o'clock tomorrow? Yes. So maybe tomorrow let's start early. MEC, will it be suitable for you if we start at 8 in the morning? Because then we can assist you quickly. We'll still continue with your testimony tomorrow, the first thing as we start, so that we can accommodate others. Apologies to those that are also coming back tomorrow, but I think you had not envisaged in any way that you'd be accommodated today. So thank you so much for availing yourselves for today. We will see you again tomorrow as we continue with the hearing. Thank you so much.